Morning, Wabash. This week speaking is Dr. Michele Pittard. She serves as the chair of the Department of Education Studies and co-chair of Freshman Colloquium. Here with her talk titled, Someday You Might Need a Kidney, Dr. Michele Pittard.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today, and a special thanks to the Sphinx Club for inviting me to speak. The topic of my talk is not about organ donation, as the title might suggest, although that would be a worthy and important title and topic, especially given my family's circumstances. Instead, my talk is about family, defined very broadly. A study done a few years ago says that we are moving away from a traditional definition of family toward a more modern definition of family, which makes sense given the changes in public policy and opinion. In fact, the same study reported that 60% of us believe that regardless of the composition of the people in your family, if you consider yourself a family, you are. I chose to talk about family today partly because it's the topic of my freshman tutorial, so I've been thinking a lot about family in an academic sense. But to be honest, I'm kind of obsessed with family. My own, of course, but famous families too, like the Kennedys, the British royal family, and celebrities with kids. I don't know how to explain this kind of weird obsession, except to say that I think being a member of a family is such a humbling experience that it makes me wonder how people in high-profile positions and celebrities manage it. I mean, can you imagine Beyonce and Jay-Z or Princess Kate and Prince William actually changing diapers? Or just picture when their kids become teenagers and begin looking at them like they're idiots. How will they respond? Seriously, what will it do to their ego? I know what it did to mine. Another reason I've been thinking a lot about family lately is because in my immediate family, we've had some pretty big milestones happen recently that have caused me to think about how my role in my own family is evolving. More about that in a minute. Also, it goes without saying that you don't have to be on this campus more than about 5 minutes to begin to understand some things about the Wabash family. It's all these things that have led me to want to talk about family today, and so I want to thank you again for indulging me for the next 20 minutes or so. So this talk will be part autobiography and confession, part observation and conjecture, and part philosophy and inspiration. It's about autobiography and confession because I think it would be impossible for me to talk about the concept of family without conjuring up images and stories from my own family, which will cause me to have to confess some things about me and about them. It'll be part observation and conjecture because I'm going to make some assertions about what I've noticed about families, family life, and the general concept of family based on my experiences and observations of other people's families and from films and books and People magazine. Remember the obsession with famous people and celebrities with kids. But please, I should say this now before I forget. As I told my group of freshmen, just because I have a family and have done some reading about families doesn't mean I'm an expert by any stretch of the imagination. The talk will also be part philosophy and inspiration because my beliefs about family will undoubtedly come through and reveal some sort of philosophy that I have about living in a family. Whether you agree or disagree, I guess I'm also hoping that this talk will at least be somewhat inspirational. Well, because I think Chapel Talk should be inspirational. So here goes. The last time I gave a chapel talk, my kids, 2 daughters with a son in the middle, were 12, 10, and 8. Now they're 22, 20, and 18, all 3 in very different stages of life compared to 2005. Go back a couple of more years to when I came to Wabash in 2002, and they were 9, 7, and 5. Forgive me for a bit of nostalgia for a moment, but a month ago, in the span of 2 weeks, I turned 50, my oldest daughter got engaged, and my husband and I officially became empty nesters when we dropped our youngest daughter off at Ohio Wesleyan. Freshmen, raise your hands if you're the youngest in the family or an only child. Youngest or only children? Okay, take out your phones and text your folks. Whoever it is that dropped you off on Freshman Saturday and had to drive home to an empty house, text them. right now. I mean it. Just say hi, or I love you, or I miss you, or thanks for sending me to Wabash. Seriously. If the response you get is what's wrong, you may send one more text and tell them nothing is wrong, you just wanted to say hi, and then put your phones away and get back to listening. As the mother of 3 mostly grown kids, all off doing what young people your age do, I have a little more time on my hands, so I'm obliged to pause and reflect. No doubt our daily life as a family has been changing pretty gradually over the last several years, so the difficult process of saying goodbye to each of our kids should not have bothered or surprised me. You might think I should have been prepared for, and maybe even looking forward to, a much quieter, empty house and more free time. But I think my husband would agree, as much as we value time together, just the 2 of us, our time is always richer when the kids are with us. But like all of you, I belong to a larger extended family. No matter how we define family, and no matter how we think about our relationships within our extended families, they are part of our lives and they help shape our identity. And like all of you, I have different roles in my family, as the title suggested, or my introduction suggested. In my immediate family, obviously, I'm the mother and wife. Even those 2 roles carry very different responsibilities and slightly different persona. Thinking about my role as wife and mother made me think about what Eric Rowland said last week in his chapel talk. Referring to his job as an architect, he said he's still doing what he loved doing when he was a kindergartner, drawing and building things. When he said that, I immediately thought about what I loved doing as a 5-year-old. And guess what? It was playing house and playing school. And here I am, still loving both those things, being a wife and mother and being a teacher. In my extended family, I'm the youngest of 3. I have 2 older brothers, which is important to note given the momentous nature of my birthday last month. As a result of having older brothers, I'm the proud great-aunt to 3 toddlers, my nephew's kids. My parents married young and divorced when I was 9, married each other again, and divorced again. The second time when I was a freshman in high school. The overwhelming emotion I remember feeling at that time was embarrassment. I grew up in Parke County, which is about 30 miles south of here, and I only knew 2 or 3 people in my whole school whose parents were divorced. Okay, it was a small school, only 45 in my graduating class, but still. All of my close friends had parents who were married, happily, at least from my perspective. Even as a freshman at Butler University, I found myself surrounded by new friends who all had seemingly happy, normal families. And then I met my husband. 2 years behind me at Butler, another significant detail given my birthday last month, not that I'm obsessed with that, but at this point in my life, I take some kind of vain pride in knowing I have a younger husband. One of the first things I learned about Jeff was that his parents were also divorced, and while this wasn't the thing that brought us together, nor is it what has kept us together for 26 years, at the time I found in him a kinship and someone who wasn't ashamed to admit his parents were divorced. He also didn't apologize for it or take any blame for his parents' divorce. In fact, when we were planning our wedding, I was concerned especially about the rehearsal dinner because it would draw all of our parents together at the same time in a small setting without the distraction of the rest of the wedding guests. This was something they'd never been asked to do, as far as I knew, since their respective divorces, and I was worried about how they might behave when expected to interact civilly with each other. But without hesitation, Jeff said to me, "Michele, it's our wedding. We should do what we want and not be worried about how our parents will act. It's not our fault they got divorced. Let them deal with it. We shouldn't have to." And so that's the approach we've taken as we continue to invite all of our parents to our kids' birthdays and athletic events, graduations, even Christmas. And guess what? They've all done a really good job over the last 26 years. In fact, several years ago, my parents agreed to have Christmas together with my brothers and me and our families. As cliche as it might sound, I consider all of us at Wabash to be a family, maybe not in the traditional 2-parent, 2 kids, 1 pet kind of family, but a much bigger, diverse family who, like my family, learns how to get along despite, and maybe sometimes because, of our differences. There are times in our lives when we naturally begin to pull away from our families. You students are all in the midst of doing this now. By virtue of being here at Wabash, you've separated yourselves from your family, and you have, in this 4-year moment of time, an opportunity to define yourself in ways you haven't done before. Even the legacies, who have fathers, grandfathers, brothers, or uncles who attended Wabash, you're experiencing this separation, and the difference is you're here now. So all of you, go for it. Grow and develop into the men you want to be, safe in knowing your family, both at home and here on campus, is with you, supporting you. So all this thinking about family led me to think about all the stuff we do for and with our families in the name of love, things we'd rather not do, but do them anyway out of love or guilt. It's hard to tell sometimes the difference with families. My brother had a heart transplant 6 years ago, and in the months leading up to his transplant surgery, he spent a fair amount of time in the hospital. And he told me more than once that I didn't have to visit him in the hospital. I didn't need to make the drive from Lafayette to Indianapolis just to see him lying in a bed. You're busy, he said. You don't have to come see me. Frustrated with him on a night that was my turn to stay with him at the hospital, I finally just said to him, Marty, don't you know we do things every day that we don't want to for the people we love? From my own experiences and from observing other families, I've come to realize that we do a whole host of things for the people we love that we'd really rather not do. So I made a list. It's probably not complete. I'm sure you can add to it, and it may not be accurate according to your experience. You may even disagree with some of the things I've included, but here's my list of top 10 things we'd rather not do, but do them anyway for our families. Number 1, we attend family reunions. Enough said. Number 2, we change poopy diapers in the middle of the night and in the middle of dinner. I'm not sure which one is worse. Both are disgusting. So is puke, which probably deserves its own place on this list, but that's enough about bodily fluids. Number 3, we attend piano recitals, youth basketball games, baseball games, and golf tournaments when our kids are probably way too young to be expected to care more about the snack they get afterwards than about the recital or the game. All 3 of my kids are college athletes, and I can tell you from experience as a parent who's logged a lot of miles and bleacher seat time that I'd travel farther and sit longer to watch my kids do it all over again. But watching really young kids play sports can be painful. It's hilarious if you can find the humor in it, but it's painful. Number 4, we go to funerals. For distant cousins and friends of our parents and grandparents, and for parents of our kids' friends, not because the deceased meant something to us necessarily, but because they meant something to someone in our family. I don't know how to say this next part without being irreverent, so I'll just say it. Damn it, when I die, please don't have a traditional funeral in an overly decorated, straight out of the 90s funeral home with creepy organ music and a eulogy given by a pastor who didn't even know me. Rent out a reception hall, bring coolers of beer and open bottles of wine, hire a DJ, have a party. Because even if I die tomorrow, I've had a good life, long enough to know true love and happiness. And if I've lived half as well as I think, I'll be in heaven anyway, so no mourning me, just celebrate. Number 5, we help people in our families move. Like parents who move out of state after a divorce, because as mad as you are about the divorce, you really don't want your dad living 800 miles away, so you help anyway. And older brothers who move out of the house to live their own life way before you're ready to admit you might not be part of their new life. And grandmothers who move out of their home into a room in your mom's house, or worse, to a nursing home. And kids who move many times in and out of dorms and fraternity houses that are a lot more stinky and gross than even my husband remembers, and who move in and out of our house, leaving a lot more of their junk behind than we'd hoped because it just won't fit in the car, Mom. Number 6, we run errands and we do endless amounts of laundry. Unless they just turned 16 and need an excuse to go out driving, kids hate doing errands for their parents, but they do them anyway. And as my own parents get a little older and on occasion ask me to do various errands for them, I remind myself how much they have done for me along the way, and I remember how when my oldest daughter was born, I understood instantly how much my parents love me, so I do their errands without complaint. Laundry's the same. No one I know really enjoys doing laundry, especially someone else's, but we do it because we care enough about the people in our lives to make sure they're walking around in clean clothes. Number 7, we help with homework. God, I hate homework. It's ironic, I know, but I despise homework, at least K-12 homework, because as parents, we feel obligated to make sure our kids do it, no matter how mind-numbing it seems, and we have to help them because if we're making them do it and they have a question, we have to be there to help. In our family, by default, I was assigned homework duty, except science fair projects, thank God. As an English major, I convinced my husband I didn't have the skills to help with the kids with their science fair projects, that he'd have to do it, and he did. But he got back at me the year he agreed to let our daughter use real mice in her project. Number 8, we support family members in decisions that we disagree with or make things difficult for us because we trust them. And we finally realize it's not about us, it's about them. I know about this because my son is a junior at DePaul. I told you there were confessions. I've taken some heat for this from former and current students, and I still hear about it when he gets the chance from our esteemed Dean of Students, Dean Raiders. But at the end of the day, it's always an easy explanation for me. A mother's love is strong, and we find ourselves doing unimaginable things for our kids, like taking a son on a visit to DePaul and understanding when he doesn't say it, but you know he's thinking it, I really don't want to go to school on a campus where you teach. Number 9, supporting a family member when you'd rather be doing something else or when it's embarrassing, like attending a chapel talk at Wabash when you're a student at DePaul. Thank you, Reed. There he is. And number 10, letting go. I'm learning how hard this is and appreciating at the same time how exciting letting go can be. It's a little bit like jumping off the high dive. As a kid, I was not a swimmer. Still, to this day, my best stroke is the dog paddle. But growing up, my closest cousin, Kim, whose mom is here, was a swimmer. She knew all the strokes and could dive like a champion. I was very jealous. So when she wanted to go off the high dive, I couldn't not go with her, so I did, and every time as I climbed the ladder to the top, looking down at the kids waiting below to start up the ladder, I knew I couldn't turn back. I didn't really want to turn back, but I dreaded the moment I'd be up on the board by myself. But every time I let go of my fear, and even though I'm sure it wasn't pretty or graceful or athletic, I did it. And when I came up out of the water, after thinking for a few very scary moments I'd surely drown because the diving well is a lot deeper than I remembered, I opened my eyes, and with the energy that comes only from accomplishing something, I realized it was so worth it. This analogy, I think, is fitting for my husband and me, the new empty nesters. I think we let go of our fear when we moved all of our kids into their new places last month. So we've jumped off the high diving board of parenting and let them all go. And we're somewhere still in that diving well, hoping when we come up for air, it will be worth it. I'm sure it will be. I know it will be, but it's deep down here. All these things we do in the name of love and a little guilt, but there's nothing wrong with allowing a little guilt to motivate us to do what we have to and need to for and with our families. For me, this list represents a range of day-to-day obligations and responsibilities and events that make up the lives we share with our families. After all, it's the mundane and gross and scary stuff that make up a significant part of life, isn't it? The same is true for life at Wabash. It's messy and frustrating and humbling and scary and tedious and crazy And at the same time, it's always better because we're living it together as a family. So I'll end with 3 pieces of advice, mainly for the students, but it's probably good advice for the rest of us too. First, own who you are. Be proud of the place you have in your family and the role you play, and be open to the evolution of your role because it will change after being at Wabash, because you're changing. No matter how dysfunctional our families may be, we are, by nature of being born and cared for by others, a part of something larger than ourselves. Our experiences, our family background contribute significantly to who we are as people. There's no way around that. So own that, and learn from each other, and be nice to your family, because as we've always told our kids, someday you might need a kidney. Wabash students and alumni get this. You buy into and own the bonds of the Wabash family, and you're better men for it. Second, let the outside in. Don't be exclusive in your families. Be open to new experiences, new traditions, and new people. The more the merrier. I'm learning this now as we begin to plan a wedding, and I think about what it will mean to have a son-in-law and how I'll be as a mother-in-law. At Wabash, we talk a lot about community, and there's a lot of emphasis on the Wabash brotherhood you students and alumni share. And as a female faculty member, maybe especially because I have 2 older brothers, I find myself longing to be a part of that. I recognize the special bond my brothers share, and I'm thankful to be the younger sister in our family. My role, my relationship with them is different, still integral to our family structure, but different, and that's okay. I think faculty, male and female, have a similar role here in the Wabash family. We may not be a direct member of your brotherhood, but that's okay, because we have a different and important role in your time here at Wabash. To the freshmen especially, but to all of you students, I want to say, continue to let the faculty in, close enough to understand and appreciate your brotherhood, and close enough to help you when you need it. That's scary. The next page is blank. Third, be a family. Think about the power of the connection associated with being family. It's not about blood relatives, it's about relationships, and it's about commitment. When our kids ask, and even when they don't, we tell them that the key to a successful marriage is about 2 things. Number 1, choose wisely, and number 2, remember your family. Choosing someone with similar interests and values, goals, and someone who cares about your success and who makes you laugh, these are the keys to choosing a life partner. The second part, remembering your family, is in some ways more challenging, at least in the long term. But know that once you make a commitment to someone, that's it, your family. And there are certain things you'd never do to your family to hurt them. There's a loyalty that doesn't get broken no matter what. You might get angry. No, you will get angry and frustrated with members of your family, and you might even hate the things they choose to do. But you don't ever stop loving them and caring for them, which means sometimes you might have to step up and tell them to stop or to go for it, whichever the case may be, and remind them you've got their backs. In other words, during your time at Wabash, be confident in knowing that you've already chosen well by being here. So now it's about the commitment and remembering to be a family to each other. Because in the end, our families are the people who make us feel safe in the world. And at Wabash, always means always. As Michael J. Fox said, family isn't an important thing, it's everything. Thank you.